Aphmau never did anything wrong in Phoenix Drop High, and the way that fans try to paint her as a promiscuous pick-me girl is really misogynistic. This is a topic that's been weighing heavily on my mind for a while now, and I figured I should finally make a video about it. So today we're going to be covering the many times where the men in Aphmau's life have mistreated her in Phoenix Drop High Season 1. The moments that bug me the most, and kinda doing a defense of Aphmau as a character. During this video, I'd appreciate some level of discernment between Aphmau as a character and Jessica as a person. I want us to fully immerse ourselves in the world instead of looking at something cringe and being like, why did Jess write that? I also believe it's important to bring up the fact that in around 2024, Jessica said that a lot of the ages that we believe these characters to be is simply not the case. But we do know what grades they are in, which gives us a very vague ballpark of where they may be. I won't be regurgitating the discourse of whether or not Aaron is a predator, as I simply don't believe that to be the case, and it was probably a huge oversight during the making of the roleplay. I also want us to quickly define what we count as a pick-me girl. Urban Dictionary defines it as a girl who seeks male validation by indirectly or directly insinuating that she is not like the other girls. And to add my own opinion, I'd say any girl who tears down other women for male attention or approval. Does that sound about right? Okay, great. I very well may make more videos about Aphmau, as I see her as an extremely overhated character that deserves better from her fandom. But I've decided to start with Phoenix Drop High since it's her youngest appearance within a series, if you don't count us seeing her as a baby slash toddler a few times spontaneously throughout mystreet or other roleplays. Phoenix Drop High starts with Aphmau starting her freshman year of high school. Aph is obviously anxious about her first day, explaining that she's been homeschooled for a year, and when she was in middle school, she didn't really have any friends or talk to anyone. For lack of a better word, Aphmau is kind of a neat. She says she hasn't seen anyone her age in a year, and she spends most of her time on an MMORPG. Aphmau's mom, Sylvana, is trying to help Aphmau the best that she can, but she is overprotective in a way that just doesn't benefit Aph, not allowing her to speak to boys or anything like that. Which, with added context, does make a tad bit of sense. Sylvana's husband left her to take care of Aphmau all by herself, which surely didn't help Aphmau in her childhood and could be another reason why she's just not there socially. One of the very first scenes of season 1 is Aphmau bumping into Garroth, and it's really cringe. And she drools all over him, and it's really awkward. But I don't see anything wrong with this. She isn't creepy about it, and it's obvious she's already anxious about everything. And she's a teenage girl. It's normal for girls her age to have crushes on hot guys. And Garroth is canonically pretty hot in the Aphmau universe. She meets Laurance later in the first episode, where he almost immediately starts to put the moves on our girl Aphmau. And yes, Aphmau does think he's hot, but again, in her defense, Laurance is also canonically hot. I mean, they literally refer to themselves as the hottest guys in the sophomore class. Like, holy ego. The thing that irks me the most is the fact that people act like Aphmau owes Garroth or Laurance something. Like she needed to be with one or the other. The fans treat her like an object, and it grosses me out. And the fans aren't the only ones who think this way either, because oddly enough, I think Laurance and Garroth act like they're entitled to Aphmau as well. Even in the beginning, where they first start to get to know her, they start bickering over her like she's a toy. I mean, they both just won't stop flirting with her, to the point when I was rewatching, all I could think of was, wow, she needs a restraining order on these guys. Garroth was flirting with Appa in front of his brothers. It's just so bizarre. I think Zane said it best.
To be honest, I'd prefer if you told me that instead, Aphmau. Could you be any more creepy, Garroth?
It truly doesn't help that Aphmau's response is always one that reeks of mild discomfort. And I know this is probably to convey her awkwardness around the subject. Like, oh my god, she's so shy and cute, but it just makes these scenes 10 times harder to watch. I think that things really take a turn with Garth and Laurance when we get to around episode 10, entitled First Kiss. In this episode, Aphmau is at the roommate's house for dinner. I'd say by this time it's pretty established Garth and Laurance both have feelings for Aphmau, and she reciprocates. Everything is fine and dandy till they actually sit down to eat dinner and Zane starts to make fun of Garth for flirting with Aphmau. Then he baby rages, walks outside, and proceeds to kiss Aphmau without consent, taking her first kiss from her. This whole interaction makes me wildly uncomfortable. Yes, Aphmau does reciprocate feelings for him, but it shouldn't have to be explained that what he did wasn't okay. Yes, he apologizes, but then he proceeds to make her promise to keep it a secret from Lauren, which is weird and something he should have thought about before kissing her without her consent. The next day, Aphmau is obviously conflicted about what happened, and honestly, watching it kinda upset me. Aphmau saying, "Shouldn't I be more excited about this?" really broke my heart. She's a 14 to 15-year-old girl who's suddenly responsible for protecting Lawrence's feelings because of Garth's mistake. And it puts her in a terrible position where she's not just forced to lie to Lawrence, but because she feels pressured to keep this secret, Jean takes this as an opportunity to blackmail her. But more on that later. In episode 15, First Date, Gareth asks Aphmau to go out on a little get to know you kind of date. Everything is going pretty well with the exception of a few weird lines from Gareth, as per usual, until Lawrence shows up. Aphmau tries to call Lawrence over because why not? That's her and Gareth's mutual friend. Until Gareth tries to silence her as he tells her that Lawrence doesn't know they're on a date and that she can't tell him. Weird. I really don't like the overemphasis on keeping things a secret when it comes to the Garth and Laurance plotline. I understand I might be being a little nitpicky, but it makes me a little uncomfortable, especially when it's clear Aphmau doesn't really want to keep it a secret. I don't like how Aphmau is responsible for both of their feelings when they should just communicate with each other like normal friends. Yes, it's an unfortunate situation that she likes both of them, but it shouldn't be her job to protect their friendship. Laurance then asks her to go to the photo booth with him, and suddenly we have our second non-consensual kiss, but this time from Laurance. Wow, I hate this so much. She responds with pure shock and horror. And he explains that the reason he kissed her was because he thought that her and Gareth may have been on a date, which is almost like a mix of jealousy and, dare I say, him objectifying her by claiming his property. I really don't like it. He says he should have asked first, but he doesn't really apologize. And Aphmau says it's okay, but it doesn't really take away from how bizarre the situation is. He asks Aphmau in episode 17 if she liked the kiss, but again, he should have asked questions before the kiss. You really should take some notes from Jeffrey.
May I kiss you?
After episode 20, things start to go downhill for Gareth and Laurance. Jean tells Gareth about the kiss between Laurance and Aphmau, and Gareth starts to crash out at him, and Laurance does the same. The truth is revealed finally, but the conclusion they draw from this is that they're both being played. Wow. Laurance draws this conclusion by hearing rumors in the hallway about Aaron and Aphmau dating. Rumors that have no factual basis and are just that, rumors. They both also come to the conclusion that because Aphmau didn't inform either of them about their respective kiss encounters, that makes her untrustworthy. I'm sorry, what? Literally, who set that system up? Who were the ones kissing her without consent and then guilt tripping her into not telling anyone by vaguely threatening that it would ruin their friendship with each other? Are you genuinely serious right now? This is part of the reason I can't stand Laurance or Gareth. They're so weird. And instead of, I don't know, asking Aphmau about all this to see if it's true, Laurance flirts with Michi and then proceeds to totally ignore Aphmau and blow her off. And Gareth acts like a total weirdo, saying he heard some things and then just walks off. He doesn't specify what those things are. He just acts totally emo and full of self-pity for no reason. But if either of them had just asked Aphmau what was going on, they could have cleared everything up and it would have been a-okay. But no, they decide to be so weird about it. And then They keep being weird. They won't stop being weird. It's so crazy. They start recording her and Aaron as a way to prove that they're together. Of course, the recording works out for the better, as they have proof of Jean and Balto being total creeps, but it's still weird that they did that in the first place. And these are my only gripes with Garth and Laurance. These are only their sins in Phoenix Drop High. I could make a whole separate video on how Aphmau didn't need to be with either of them in any series that she's made. And that includes mystreet and Minecraft Diaries and literally every single other series. You guys act like they are entitled to her and they are not. Jean is possibly the worst of the worst when it comes to the men who exploit Aphmau for their personal gain. At least in season 1. I was debating on just including him in Garth and Lawrence's section because they do intersect heavily, but ultimately decided that I needed to touch on this separately because he was genuinely up to some terrible, terrible stuff. All of the Jean stuff really ramps up in episode 10 entitled First Kiss, which is also when the Garth and Laurance stuff start to ramp up. This is the episode where Garth kisses Aphmau, and that was bad enough. But Jean, for some reason, only God knows why, was like stalking them and managed to snap a picture of the kiss. Really bizarre. I don't even know what to say about that. Anyway, Jean confronts Aphmau with the picture. He manipulates her and plays at her emotions and proceeds to threaten to show Laurance unless she does what he wants her to do. But not only does he threaten to show Laurance, he basically threatens to show literally everyone, saying he'd hate to think what Ivy would do if she saw the picture of Aphmau kissing Gareth. Weird. So at this point, it isn't just him threatening to ruin Garth and Lawrence's friendship. It's a vaguely multi-layered threat of, if she doesn't do exactly what he says, then not only will she lose 2 of her new friends, but the bullying she's already facing from Ivy will be amped up to 100. I like Jean. In fact, he's one of my favorite characters. But I feel like it's a disservice to everyone if you ignore his weird behavior. As he proceeds with his blackmailing, he nicknames her Kitty, which is gross and demeaning. Sasha literally compares it to a pet's name, and Jean calls her their little pet. This is something Aphmau loudly protests against, telling him to stop and that she doesn't like it. Jean continuously pushes Aphmau's boundaries. He forces her to skip school with him, all while swearing that he isn't one to force a good thing, and that she's going to join the Shadow Knights on her own. And even when she declines, he still refuses to delete the picture he's been blackmailing her with, and forces her to commit vandalism, which is like illegal and does in fact get her in trouble with the cops. And the only reason she was let off with a warning is because her mom defended her. And the reason that Jean is continuously enabled throughout this is because Aphmau is too scared to tell her mom about the kiss. I don't think Sylvana is necessarily a bad mom. We're like a flawed one shaped by the environment around her and her urge to protect Aphmau, which does more harm than good most of the time. I touched on this a little at the beginning, but her mom is very strict about her and her contact with boys. And when she thinks that Aphmau may have had her first kiss, she overreacts, making Aphmau rethink telling her mom everything that's going on, which worsens the whole situation, leaving her pretty isolated and unable to confide in anyone without adding on to the lie. She tells Laurance a little bit, saying that her friend is in this situation that him and Garth are currently in, which only makes it worse, adding on to her fears of ruining Garth and Lawrence's friendship, which only furthers the pressure that she feels from Jean. And I know I commented on how Aphmau acts so wildly awkward around Garth and Laurance when they flirt with her, but she's about 100 times worse when Jean is around. Not only is she insanely uncomfortable, but at times it feels like she's downright terrified. It's honestly really hard to watch. I mean, she literally feels the need to run and hide from him in episode 11. Jean then leaves her alone for a while after Aaron destroys his phone, thus getting rid of any leverage he has over Aphmau until texting her in episode 17, saying he wants to hang out and be friends with her, which is like some insane level of audacity to have. He then says he doesn't have the picture anymore, basically leading her to believe that he got rid of it on his own and not by the literal physical force of Aaron breaking his phone. Aphmau declines his offer of friendship and then moves on, but Jean doesn't give up and is still rather persistent in his twisted quest for something from Aphmau. I really don't know what it is that he wants. I think he wants her to join the Shadow Knights, but also this is like the entirely wrong way to go about things. So he gets Balto on his side in a quest to take down Aaron. In episode 20, Jean tells Garroth about the kiss that Aphmau and Laurance had, which is just weird. Literally, why is he borderline stalking Aphmau at this point? How does he have the photo booth pictures? Like, at this point, Aphmau is literally a victim because Jean's behavior is nowhere near normal or sane. Even Xenix was weirded the fuck out.
What was that about?
Then in episode 22, Jean literally gets into like sexual predator territory. You could argue that he's been in that territory the entire time, but it just gets worse. With him literally threatening to kiss Aphmau as a means to get Aaron to act out in physical violence.
If you can't get past Balto, then you won't stop me from kissing Aphmau.
What?
Still getting that kiss.
It's genuinely so weird. Jean is a total creep, and there are still people in the fandom who act like he's somehow the victim in the situation, or that he deserves better than Aphmau. And I've also seen people say he has the right to bully her because she's cringe. Like, these are real things that real people are saying. Balto isn't a very important character, so I don't feel a need to make a whole segment on him, but he's just very weird. And the way he speaks to Aphmau makes me uncomfortable. I don't like him.
Hey there, cutie. Nice tail.
Huh? Hey, Balto!
Since when did you become a werewolf? It looks really good on you.
Aaron is a complicated, perhaps nuanced subject to talk about in certain contexts. I always feel very conflicted when it comes to him in Phoenix Drop High, so apologies if this isn't my best take. I think the age gap discourse has been regurgitated a lot, so I'm not going to touch on that all too much, but I feel as though I should bring up the fact that Aaron is a senior and Aphmau is in fact a freshman. I know Jazz has spoken about this before, and if she says there isn't a weird age gap, then I'm inclined to believe her. I feel like Aaron isn't as bad as people make him out to be, and he was a subject to a very prominent hate train a few years back that is still currently ongoing. So I'm asking everyone who may not like him to hear me out. He's definitely not especially kind to Aphmau and is honestly quite hostile to her in a way that I can't really defend in the beginning. I mean, her very first interaction with anyone on her first day was him bumping into her while she was trying to take a selfie. Like, imagine being new to the school and you're forced to sit next to a guy who does this when you sit next to him. But he does take it upon himself to try and help Aphmau when he sees Jean talking to her in episode 11. But he doesn't quite grasp the whole situation and the stakes of it, so it really doesn't help. But in episode 13, she confides in Aaron, telling him about the blackmail situation anonymously, neither of them knowing who each other are. He gives her honest and good advice, and then he breaks Jean's phone, essentially handling the situation. This is the first time we see Aaron not being a total jerk. Yes, he's not very nice, but he's not a bad guy, and he is good at his core. We see him being a good friend to Aphmau in the form of FC. He's always there for her and is honestly her closest friend for a while without even knowing who she is. And I'd say after episode 13, he seems to warm up to Aphmau a little more. He still pokes fun at her, but he isn't as aggressive about it, making it more of a teasing joke than genuine bullying. Aaron is just deeply troubled and tends to act out at school and is pretty hostile to pretty much everyone. His home life isn't the best, and his relationship with his family isn't very good. And while he is a little older than Aphmau, he still is a teenager in high school, so of course he doesn't handle this in the best or most mature way.
Jeez, are you a kid?
Yeah, I am. So are you.
Episode 16 is where we get our first Aphmau-centered episode, titled Aaron vs. Aphmau. Here we see Aaron being kinda egotistical and rude to Aphmau again. It's weird, yeah, but I don't think he's truly trying to be a threat to her in like a dangerous way. Given the context of the episode, I'd say Aaron is just being very competitive. But Aphmau is also competitive, so it evens itself out. It isn't just one-sided on Aaron's part, but Aphmau also seems to enjoy indulging in this rivalry they have. have. The thing with Aaron is, I feel like Aphmau feels more open about being herself with him. We don't see her lash out the way she does at Aaron towards someone like Garroth or Laurance, and she can't really do that with Jean because of the blackmail he has over her. Despite all this, Aaron still offers to let her win. I know it's revealed to be something of a trick he pulls to win in the end, but I do genuinely believe he has a soft spot for her at this point, and probably would have let her win if she didn't react the way she did. Most of Aaron's tough guy act is just that, an act. Later in the episode, Ivy and Lily trap Aphmau in a locker, which is just insanely cartoonishly cruel, like who does that? Which then leads to this awkward moment where Aaron opens his locker and Aphmau falls on top of him. But I'm telling you, if that were Garroth or Laurance, there would have been a non-consensual kiss as a cherry on top. That was a joke, sorry. The next episode, Aphmau is understandably a little awkward around Aaron, and she's embarrassed about what happened. I mean, to be fair, who wouldn't be? They go back and forth for a bit, but Aaron is never weird or pushy about it. And I know it's incredibly depressing to be praising a man for not being a total creep to women, but in this series, it's truly a rarity. Everything is pretty much as it usually is with them. Their rivalry continues, and they continue having their anonymous friendship through their identities as FC and Shu. And Aaron is pretty caring and a good friend as FC. The worst offense of Aaron in the whole series, which they get into at around episode 29, Aaron's friend, is the fact that he marked her. And then he also grabs her ears and tail, but in his defense, he truthfully did not think they were real, but it's still pretty bad. Especially when people are going around saying Aphmau is his mate, I don't like it. It's really weird. The fact that he never told her about the alpha stuff and the marking is also insanely weird. Especially because in the final episode, when it's revealed, Aphmau acts uncomfortable with it, but she gets over it pretty fast. Aphmau overhears Ivy and Lily's plan to break Aaron's heart and tells Aaron about it, but he reacts very defensively, which I kinda understand. This is the first person who's tried to be his friend and treat him like a person, so to have someone say that they're using you must be pretty upsetting. Yes, Aphmau had no bad intentions, but given the context of their rival relationship, it makes sense that Aaron wouldn't believe her, and maybe thinks she's just trying to get under his skin. This is most definitely a sensitive topic for Aaron as well, since he struggles a lot with socializing and is honestly quite isolated besides his only friendship, which is with Shu. And boom, cue the identity reveal at the end of episode 21, where Aphmau literally starts crying at the thought of Aaron being FC. It's really funny, sorry. She has every right to feel the way she does, but the way she's just like, I don't like you, kills me. I mean, it all works itself out by the end of the episode, but oh my god. After the reveal, Aphmau and Aaron become really good friends. Aaron loses his hostility and they develop a pretty normal dynamic. He even defends her from Lily bullying her. And he's very understanding when it comes to her friends being a little overprotective, and it's sweet. And when he's invited to Aphmau's place for dinner by Sylvana, despite her judging him at first, he's still super kind, and even fixes the burnt food, therefore saving the meal and making it better. This is where Sylvana's problems with Aaron starts after he steals a Beyonce joke from her. But no, seriously, I see a lot of people saying that Sylvana's hate for Aaron is justified, and I feel kind of back and forth in regards to this topic. I feel like it's mainly rooted in some jealousy, not in a particularly weird way, but as a single mom with only one child, I think she's just worried about her daughter being taken away from her. And that makes her act out in specific ways. I touched on this a little at the beginning, so I won't get super into it. But those are just my thoughts. But it isn't really a result of Aaron doing anything wrong like a lot of people think. By this point, it's incredibly established that Aphmau has feelings for Aaron, whether she's fully realized that or not. She has like these weird daydream/dream sequences about him, and it's pretty obvious. And by the time the final episode happens and they kiss, it is with consent. Travis is one of my biggest pieces of evidence in this, being that he is a main male character that has no feelings for Aphmau. Of course, he isn't the only one, but I'd argue he's one of the more relevant characters in the first season. This is important because people insist that every male character has a crush on Aphmau, when that's simply just not true whatsoever. And it's established very early on that Travis has feelings for Caitlin, and it's confirmed in episode 9. Does he experiment with flirting with her in episode 19, yes, but that isn't because he liked her. It's because they're close friends, and he wants to test out his skills while being misled by Dante. Dante also seems to have no feelings for Aphmau and actively complains about Garroth and Laurance's annoying crushes on her in episode 15. In episode 24, he says Aphmau needs to get a girl's number or she has to go on a date with him. But truthfully, I don't think he has feelings for her. He's just a serial dater. Also, Vlad has no feelings for her. You know that little thing I mentioned at the start? The fact that pick-me girls are girls who tear down other women for male attention or approval? Yeah, Aphmau doesn't fit into this category whatsoever. She's a girl's girl through and through. She's never catty or mean to the other girls, even if they're being mean to her. In episode 12, she's even very kind to Sasha and talks to her almost as a friend, if you don't think about the situation that she's in. I feel as though this is a subject that isn't very touched on when it comes to this conversation, because quite frankly, I don't think too many people care about Aphmau's friendships and reduce her to being a love interest despite her being the main character. I think everyone is too focused on the male characters, which is a genuine, persistent problem within the Aphmau community. I understand having favorite characters, but when you like a character so much you start to hate on or ignore other characters, mainly the women in their lives, there is a problem that needs to be addressed. One of the first interactions she has is with Tiani, and it goes very well. And later she meets Caitlin, and while she is assertive with her for being aggressive towards Travis, she still manages to befriend both her and Lucinda in the end. I feel like one of the most important early episodes that establishes Aphmau's bond with the other girl characters is episode 14, Slumber Party. In this episode, Aphmau accidentally invites Kawaii-chan to her sleepover, and when she's asked about it, she doesn't turn Kawaii-chan away or say that she can't come. In fact, she embraces this as an opportunity to make a new friend and says that Kawaii-chan can go. I honestly think it's a fun episode where the girls talk and bond with each other. We see a little more insight into their dynamic. This is kinda Aphmau's first time doing something like this. She's never really had close female friendships, or close friendships with anyone in real life for a few years, as far as we know. They gossip and talk about boys and stuff, all very stereotypical teenage girl things, but I find it endearing until eventually their parents interrupt, but even then they keep having fun. In episode 16, Aaron vs. Aphmau, we also get to see Aphmau, Kawaii-chan, Tioni, and Caitlin hanging out and playing volleyball. They have a little rivalry or whatever, but it's all in good fun. Aphmau is also a total girl's girl. In episode 17, Kissing Caitlin, where she covers for Caitlin so that her dad doesn't find out about her secret boyfriend Jeffrey, she is a very loyal friend for doing this. And even lies about Jeffrey being her, yeah, it's terrible and awkward, but it proves that she really does love Caitlin and is a very good, loyal friend. Also, in episode 18, She-Wolf, and Kawaii-chan is in need of help with the bake sale, Aphmau happily offers her help, even though Kawaii-chan ambushes her with a potion that turns her into a werewolf and manipulated her into wearing a maid outfit that she clearly isn't comfortable wearing. Very bizarre, but I really love Kawaii-chan, so I'll try and look past it. In episode 20, we hear about a couple times Aphmau has helped her girlfriends in different ways.
I mean, I've helped Caitlin keep her and Jeffrey a secret.
Yeah? What else have you done to help people aside from annoy them?
Hey, I'm not annoying. I've helped plenty of people. Like Kawaii-chan with her small bald spot on her tail that she covers up, or Tiani when she got a C in math and was afraid to tell her parents.
And then in episode 21, Aphmau gives Tioni her flashcards before her test. The girls even defend Aphmau from Aaron when they think he's being mean to her or bullying her. Of course, they were totally wrong in their assumptions, but it's still sweet that they care about her well-being. But once they find out she's okay, they don't judge her for her crush on Aaron. They just tease her and joke around a little. It's cute. And when Jeffrey and Caitlin break up, Aphmau is there to comfort her. I really enjoy these moments within Phoenix Drop High where Aphmau is allowed to interact and have other girlfriends. I think it's an often overlooked part of her character. She's very loyal to her friends and speaks nothing but the best of them, constantly uplifting the other girls around her. The last few episodes of the series are a lot more tame, and I truthfully don't have a lot to complain about. Garroth, Laurance, and Aphmau make up and decide to just be friends. The prom happens, and Aphmau is endgame, at least in season 1. There very well may be a video about season 2 in the future. I was going to compile it all together, but I have way too much to say about Ian to even fit in this video. But I hope the conclusion that everyone draws from this video is that Aphmau is just a teenage girl who's going through a lot. Her character is far more nuanced than most people think, and the misogynistic hate campaign against her is disgusting and shouldn't be entertained anymore. I will continue to defend every single variation of Aphmau because she just isn't the villain that everyone makes her out to be. Just because she didn't end up with your favorite guy doesn't mean that she's in the wrong or a terrible person, especially when she didn't do anything wrong.